Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world, and what a ridiculous day it is today. If you bought GameStop last week, if you bought $100 of it, you'd have about $7 grand. If you bought $1,000, you'd have 70 grand, et cetera, et cetera. What in the world is going on? You ready for GameStop? First, we're gonna explain the stock market trading technical details, right? As much technical details as you need to know. Then we'll talk about the psychology of what's going on right now. And then we'll talk about the how this is a populist proxy battle that's never been possible before and will probably never be allowed again. So we'll talk about the big picture, like what this means for our culture. So first thing, let's talk about the technical. So a stock. When you buy a stock or a share of a company, you own part of the company. So you buy a share at $5 and you hope that the company does really well and grows and innovates and makes a lot of profit, and then the value of your stock goes up to $10, and then you sell it and you profit the difference, right? That's what buy low, sell high. Right? You can also do the opposite. It's called shorting a stock. All right, actually, you can't do it. Hedge funds can do it. A hedge fund, for our purposes here, is a bunch of rich people pool a ton of money together, and they can invest in ways that regular people can't. In this story, we will refer to the hedge funds as the rich fat cats, because that's the dynamic that's happening here. So the rich fat cats, the hedge funds, they say, I want to short this stock. What does that mean? So while everyone else buys stocks, hoping that the price goes up, if you short a stock, you're hoping that the price goes down. You're betting that it goes down. It was explained to me like this. Let's say you have a lawnmower, right? You have a lawnmower. I think the price of lawnmowers are gonna go down. So I borrow your lawnmower, I sell it right away for $100. So I have $100 now. I wait 2 days. The price of lawnmowers goes down to $70. I buy it back, and then I give you your lawnmower back. So I just made $30 because I sold it for $100 right away. Price went down, bought it back for $70. I made $30. It's called short selling. Cool? Make sense? And you, the owner of the lawnmower, out of this deal, like I give you just a couple bucks. That's what you get out of letting me borrow it. Okay, let's table that for a second. We'll get back around to it. GameStop. Okay, the important thing to know about GameStop is they have nothing to do with this story at all. All right, they were merely targeted by hedge funds as a company whose they think stock price will go down, and for good reason. GameStop is a store that sells video games in malls. All right, it's not a good business model. People download games online. They shouldn't exist. Right? So for the hedge funds, they made a pretty good bet that the price of it's going to go down. So the hedge fund said, all right, here's this company that's not gonna exist for much longer. Let's profit off of this company's demise. Stock prices are going down, so we are going to borrow GameStop stock, GME, that's their ticker name. So we're gonna borrow stock in GameStop. We're gonna sell it right away. Then the company's gonna go down, right? The stocks are gonna go down, the company's gonna do worse, whatever. And then we'll buy it back at the lower price and give it back to the original owner, and we've now profited that difference. Cool? The hedge funds got so greedy with this, they did something called naked shorting, where they actually shorted more shares than actually exist. This is why you'll hear out there that they shorted 140% of the company. All right, so back to the lawnmower, and this is getting a little too confusing, I don't want to lose it here, but it would be like if I borrowed the lawnmower, sold it right away, then borrowed it again, and sold it right away again. The point is, the hedge fund guys totally overexposed themselves. Because what if the price of lawnmowers goes up? They're betting on it going down. And if all goes well for them, then okay, they make money. But what if it goes up? So what if I borrow a lawnmower, I sell it at $100, right? Then the price of lawnmowers goes up. Crap, now lawnmowers cost $150. So now I gotta buy back the lawnmower for more and then give you your lawnmower back. I lost $50. Okay, now what if the lawnmower goes to $200? And what if lawnmowers now cost $1,000? Good, I lost a ton of money now. Enter Wall Street bets. There's this thread on Reddit. This is an online forum called Wall Street Bets. And someone there noticed, look at that logo. Isn't that the best logo you've ever seen? Someone there noticed how overexposed these hedge funds were. And they said, all right, everyone, let's all buy GameStop stock. And let's make the price go up and really stick it to these hedge funds. There's one hedge fund in particular known as Melvin Capital. They have $13 billion. And they shorted a ton of GameStop stock, hoping that the price goes down, right? But right now, it's over $300. It was at $4 when all this started. And there was a certain point where if for every $12 that the price of the stock went up, for every $12, hedge funds lost $1 billion, right? And for every 12, $1 billion. So when the stocks hit $175, Melvin Capital lost all of their money, $13 billion. They lost it all because now they got to buy it back, right? Remember they borrowed it, I don't know what they borrowed it at, but let's say they borrowed it at $5 and they were hoping it'd be $3. Well, now it's $175. So they have to buy it at the new super high price and lose a ton of money because they have a certain amount of time. You can only borrow it for like a week or something. So you got to give the stock back to the original person. So they lost all their money at 175 and now it's at almost 4, right? So that's the technical stuff. Cool? I want to stress this again, that the big guys on Wall Street have lost billions of dollars in like 2 days. All right, so you're with me on the technical side. All right, so let's talk about what's really going on here. If that made no sense, or if I lost you somewhere along the way, I apologize if I didn't explain it clearly enough, but don't worry about it, okay? All you need to know is human nature and history. All you need to know is human nature and history to make sense of what's going on, even putting the technical stuff aside. So what's happening here? What's the big picture? You got your rich fat cats on Wall Street for decades. Many have made bad decisions and got bailed out. Remember the recession back in 2008, the Wall Street bailouts? Even now during COVID, right? Stock market tanks, people lose their jobs, people lose their livelihoods, people lose their savings, and the fat cats get rich. And they get the bailout money, Amazon, etc. So you have these fat cats who can even get these hedge funds who can play by different rules and the whole thing. And then you have what's called the retail traders. You maybe have heard that term, the retail traders. The retail traders is just the regular Joe. Just you and me, regular guy, who can now do our own trading on E-Trade and Robinhood and all these little sites from your bedroom. What's happening here? GameStop and now AMC, BlackBerry, a couple other stocks that the hedge funds went too deep in. This is a populist revolt against the rich. But back in the day, and this is why history, right? If you know your history about populist revolts, they're all the same. You just change the nouns and verbs around a little bit, but it's all the same. Instead of the angry mob, right, lighting their pitchforks on fire to go take down the king by burning down the castle, right? Instead of pillaging the castle, instead of the people, the mob, going to the elites and burning down their mansion, in this case, for the first time ever possible in history, the little people, through online trading websites, blew up these entire hedge funds. Tens of billions of dollars. You didn't have to light any pitchforks on fire at all. Just do it on your computer. And it worked. Remember Occupy Wall Street? Occupy Wall Street was just a bunch of smelly hippies. It was a bunch of smelly hippies who camped outside on literal Wall Street. Didn't do anything because the people camping didn't have any money. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any power. But now, because of online trading, and it's available for everybody for free, people were able to force these hedge funds to lose billions of dollars. Now, today, in these last couple of days, you have these big institution guys saying, oh, this is so terrible. Oh no, you're manipulating the stocks. Right? And you got the little guys out there saying, oh, boo, hedge fund, cry me a river. You're upset now, hedge funds, because the wrong people are manipulating the stock market? See the bitterness of it all? Right? It's you, Wall Street fat cats. You got rich on the last recession. You got bailed out. You got rich during COVID. You're getting the bailout money. You always get bailed out. We always get screwed. That's the narrative of every populist revolt ever. And it's still happening right now. What do you think, like, what's the real problem with Gavin Newsom going out to the French Laundry, for instance? Right? That's something that causes It's those types of things that cause populist revolts. I lost my job. You're eating at the most expensive restaurant in the country as you shut down all the other restaurants. Like, now here's the difference, though, with all the other populist revolts. This is not a crime. No laws were broken. It's Wall Street manipulation by the people that's never been possible before. It is the biggest blank you to Wall Street that's ever occurred because this has never been possible. Now, here's the big picture, the point of it all. Whether you have money in this all or not, right? Trump was not the end of the populist movement in the country or in the world. Trump rode a populist wave back in 2016, no doubt about it. Remember Brexit, the whole thing there's a big populist movement in the world. It's not over. This populist wave is not going anywhere, especially when, well, a couple of things. First, you got the World Economic Forum, which is meeting in a couple of days. We're not going to play it today, but we'll probably get around to it. The founder and the head of the World Economic Forum is this like central casting evil movie villain German guy who's talking about the Great Reset, how we need a great reset of world powers. It sounded kind of like Russian. I work on my German accent, but it's like, whoa, like, right? So we're talking about great global resets established by the elites. You have a cultural push still from Biden signing transgender legislation, banning Keystone pipelines. The union supported Biden. Biden comes right back and shuts down drilling. John Kerry yesterday did a press conference about how those oil workers should now make solar panels. Are you kidding me? John Kerry? Biden is the establishment. Who brought in John Kerry? A reporter asked Psaki about what the president's going to do about what's going on with GameStop. And her response literally was, well, Joe Biden hired the first woman leader of the Treasury Department. So we have Obama 2.0 establishment with critical race theory and woke political correctness sprinkled on top. This is elitism to the max happening right now. And then we got more bailouts coming for the big guys. If they bail out the hedge funds, holy cow, watch out. These are the kind of things that enrage populist movements. So it's not going anywhere. It's also why you have populists on the right and populists on the left, like AOC, cheering what's going on right now with GameStop and the rest. That's the main point of this all. It's not about GameStop. Populism is not over in America, for better or worse. Trump was just the beginning. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders, thanks for being here. I'm going to come out hot here with a very politically incorrect statement. Are you prepared? Let me read this first. This is from The Atlantic. So The Atlantic on the left, and they have like a opinion desk or like a advice desk. Right? So someone wrote a letter to asking for advice. And here's what the letter said. Everything feels untenable. I'm so frustrated for my son, whom I'll refer to as Caleb. He's in the first grade, so he's 6 years old. So imagine 6-year-old. I'm frustrated for his teachers too, and for me and my wife. Caleb's on the verge of tears by the time online school ends at 2:30. And to be honest, so am I. His schedule's different every day, and he can't read well enough to follow all the directions. So even though I am working and ignoring him most of the time, he interrupts me just often enough to make me seem unprofessional. After his day is done, we let him watch TV until my wife or I can stop working, which is around 5 o'clock most days. This means that one of us has about an hour with Caleb before bath, dinner, and bedtime. Okay? So they go on, and the question was, we have an hour a day with our son, with our 6-year-old son. What do we do with it? I want to do more schoolwork. My wife wants to have more fun time. What do we do for this hour a day? And the advice answer was, mix it up a little. One day you have fun, one day you work on math problems, have the wife do a little this and the husband do a little that, and everything will be great. That was the answer. Okay. I'll tell you what this family needs to do. The wife needs to quit her job and be with their 6-year-old. He's 6. It's not very politically correct. If you would like to temper it, I can say someone needs to quit their job. Another day I'll make the argument as to why the wife needs to quit the job, but that's fine. Now you're probably thinking, if you're in a similar situation, you're saying, oh, but I can't quit my job. Why not? Got a house to pay for? Move. Want to buy more stuff? Stop buying so much stuff. Oh, you've been working so long and so hard to get where you are in your career? Okay. Over your kids' mental health? You're writing a letter to the editor saying your kid is crying every day. You can't have a bigger cry for help. That's what that is. And you're going to continue to put your career over your kid? Snap out of it. You're being selfish. Listen to this, the way the letter's written, it's like, I'm ignoring him most of the day. He interrupts me. I seem unprofessional. Now, we lie to ourselves when we do this, right? When parents are working so much, being selfish, being materialistic, trying to get as much as possible, as big of a house as possible, we lie to ourselves and we say, oh, yeah, sure, I'm not spending as much time with my kid. They're talking about an hour that they get to spend with their kid. Yeah, I'm not spending as much time with him, but I want to give him the best life possible. He wants you. Your kid wants you. Your kid doesn't want your money. Your kid doesn't want your 401k. Your kid doesn't want that bonus check that comes at the end of the year. Your kid doesn't want a bigger house or a 65-inch television or that expensive vacation you go on twice a year or whatever you're lying to yourself about being the perk of the job and why you do it. Your kid doesn't want it. Your kid wants you. Ryan Holiday has a newsletter. He has a couple newsletters, but one of them is called The Daily Dad. It's pretty good. You get a short little story every day. And he wrote one just the other day. He said, when Cato's son, Marcus, was killed at the Second Battle of Philippi in 42 BC, his final act was to shout his father's name. When Cato's daughter, Portia, wanted to prove her strength to conspirators as they plotted against Caesar, she told her husband, I am Cato's daughter. When Cato's son, Marcus, died, his final words were not, my father's 401k! It's so big! We lived in a 4,000 square foot house! Quit your job. Move into a smaller house. Move into a trailer. Help your son. Take care of your kids is the point of this segment. You want to boil this segment down? Take care of your kid. So you're present when he wakes up in the morning. You're ready to set him up for success during his internet school. Not doing everything for him, of course. Right? That's another problem that parents do. But setting him up for success. It's only 6. And then when he's done at school at 2:30, You don't just plop him down in front of the television like he's a plant. We quoted this on the radio show the other day. I don't know if we did here, but so many parents treat their kids like a plant. Food, water, distraction. It's all they need. Food, water, distraction, just as long as they don't get in my way. Right? I don't want them in my way. I'm working over here, kid. Just don't get in my way. Don't get in the way of my career. So you plop them down in front of the TV, right? You plop them down in front of an iPad all day and then a TV all afternoon. Come on. Yeah, they'll get bigger, but they're not growing. So quit your job so you can be there when he's done. And then you can go do something. Go someplace. Go to the zoo. Take a hike. Go to the beach. Go to the park. You can make dinner together. And then when dad's done with work, the family can be together. I know, this is very white privilege of me. This is very 1950s of me. But your kid is crying out for help. Literally, he's crying out for help every day. Make some changes. What's your first priority? Right? What's your first priority? Listen to yourself. These parents right here who wrote this, listen to yourself. You're asking a stranger what you should do with that 1 hour a day that you have with your kid. 1 hour? You're giving your kid 1 hour a day? I can tell you exactly where your priorities are if you're giving your kid 1 hour a day. And I wouldn't be surprised if you did an audit of these parents during their work day. I wouldn't be surprised if they spent more than an hour a day on social media. You give your kid an hour? Yeah, Slater, but my job. Yeah, tell that to your son when he's 18. In rehab. Or bitter and cynical. Whatever else you're doing to your kid. Even if you have the best of intentions. Snap out of it. You got one life. One life. They have one life. Can't do it over when they turn 18 and say, oh, I wish I'd... No. It's the old line. No one ever says they wish they spent more of their time working. Your kid is begging you for your love and attention. Take care of your kid. Listen, I didn't come to you. You're the one who wrote the letter. Someone, you're the one who wrote the letter asking for advice. Don't yell at me for giving you the answer. Someone told this to my wife a while back. Especially true for women, right? Because women are told this lie that their self-worth comes from their job and how much money they earn. And that's a lie for men, right? That you are defined by your salary. That's a lie for men, and it's a lie for women. But feminists say that women need to be more like men. So you too must climb the corporate ladder and be a slave to the man and the almighty dollar, and then you'll achieve true happiness, right? It's amazing how many women fell for that. But this woman told my wife, she said, in America, as a woman in America today, you can have it all. That's what the world tells women. You can have it all. And this woman told my wife, she said, you can have it all. But there's a follow-up sentence. Just not all at the same time. As G.K. Chesterton said, feminism is this idea that women are free and liberated when they serve their employers, but slaves when they help their husbands. You can have it all, just not at the same time. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders. So obviously we've talked about and we all are very aware of the problems with big tech, which is why we are on MikeSlater.locals.com. Please join us over there. That's where we put all of our Mike Slater content, MikeSlater.locals.com. So we understand all the problems with big tech, but there's an element to this that I've never even considered, which may be even more concerning than anything we've ever talked about before. Eric Felton is here, and he is an actual real-life investigative reporter. This is crazy. I feel like, Eric, I want to bring you to like my kid's school as like show and tell. As like, here's a real, look at it, it's like a relic of the past. Eric Felton, how are you, Eric?
Fine, thanks, Mike. How you doing?
Good, thanks for being here. So your article is, will the tech workforce be with us if we go to war? And when I read the headline, I just thought you meant like a metaphorical war, like I don't know, like war against the people. I don't like, you know what I mean? But you mean war. like war. When did this first come on your radar?
Well, what's interesting is because of the cancel culture of shutting down communications in the conservative world, it sort of made a lot of us realize, wait a second, these wonderful toys that we've come to rely on for communication can be taken away. It's sort of like, Lucy and the football with Charlie Brown. It can be sort of pulled out at the last second when it comes to communications. What does that mean for the military, the police, the intelligence world, where these same high-tech companies, big tech companies, have been aggressively rolling out products that are being used by police departments, by the intelligence community, and by the military? And there's been a lot of tension, actually, within those companies with their workforce over being involved in military contracting. And it raises the question of, if we get into a war that people of San Francisco don't like, for example, will there be at the last moment a suspension or pulling away of the technologies that the military, the intelligence community have come to rely on over the last 5-10 years?
That is so unbelievably interesting. So again, just to drive this home, I have to get this out of my mindset. Like, when you're talking about a war, like let's say we go to war with Syria, right? And you say, will big tech be with us? I'm thinking, if they don't want us to go to Syria, whatever their stance is, they'll just silence accounts that they don't like or something. That's not what this is. This isn't silencing speech, as we've seen over the last few weeks. This is way more than that. So what are these technologies that the big tech companies have that law enforcement and the military rely on?
Well, let me give you an example. There is, in the intelligence community, Amazon Web Services. You've seen a lot of advertisements for Amazon Web Services. The NFL has a lot of, ads that show, coming up with probabilities of this and that allow you to analyze in real time, what's happening. Well, Amazon Web Services is a cloud computing company that's a division of Amazon, and they have very aggressively been selling their services to the CIA, to the intelligence community more broadly, to police departments, and they're trying to win a contract with the Defense Department for all their cloud computing called JEDI, which is worth $10 billion. And yet, an interesting thing about Amazon Web Services, 2 years ago, the leader, the head of government sales for Amazon Web Services, Teresa Carlson, she was at an event, a sales event, where she talked about how the Amazon would have unwavering support for police departments, for the intelligence community, for the military. For example, with police departments, Amazon was selling facial recognition software. They had a program called Recognition with a K for the recognition. And with their unwavering support, this last summer, when there were riots in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, all of a sudden the police departments that had come to rely on using facial recognition software in their policing had it pulled out from under them. Amazon all of a sudden didn't want to have anything to do with police departments and facial recognition software, and they basically just pulled the plug. Now, we can have an interesting conversation about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for police departments to have facial recognition software, but I think what we don't want to have happen is have police departments come to rely on that technology, and then when it counts, when there's domestic unrest of some sort, that the technology and the capability gets yanked away. And the question then, if they do it with police departments, what happens if there's a shooting war going on someplace, and Amazon has the JEDI account for doing all of the cloud computing for the Pentagon, and everything's being run through the JEDI system, and Amazon says, we don't really approve of this war, and so we're going to, shut down the Jedi system.
Of course they would do that, because we saw what all these tech companies, including AWS, did with Parler. We see the worldview when it comes to these people, like, when Tom Cotton ran that editorial in the New York Times, sending the troops, and how all the people rose up and got the opinion editor fired for daring to publish an editorial from a sitting U.S. senator. Yeah, so if they would do that, some people would say, oh, well, because it's such a big, high-stakes thing, they wouldn't do it. And I would argue, no, because it is such a high-stakes thing, that's all the more reason they would flex their muscle and not let the Defense Department or police departments use their technology. That's amazing. Can you give us more information about Jedi and what exactly that is, and why the Pentagon would even think it's wise to put all of their eggs in one basket?
It's a good question. There's been, Microsoft officially has won the contract, but Amazon has sued to get the contract. It's $10 billion to handle all of the computing needs, cloud computing for the Pentagon and the Department of Defense more broadly. And, the idea is that it's too expensive and hard to maintain security when each part of the Pentagon has its own server farm doing computing for its particular mission. And a lot of people have been asking, well, is it such a great idea to give one company all of the cloud computing responsibilities for the entire Department of Defense? One of the things we've seen with Google, Google was working with the Pentagon on a project called Maven, which was using artificial intelligence to more accurately target drone strikes. And that was kind of well down the path when employees at Google protested to Sundar Pichai, the head of Alphabet, Google, that they didn't want to have any part in the business of killing people. And so Google pulled out of its work on Maven, and it took a while for Maven to get back up and running. But again, we've seen these examples of tech companies, working with the Pentagon, working with police, working with intelligence communities, and then pulling out and getting out of those relationships when the product is well along the way. And then the question becomes, do they pull out of their participation in the product when it really matters, when there's a war that happens, when there's a crisis? Because part of the problem is, let's say in the old days, you would have a bit of software, right? You'd have it on a disk, you'd load it onto your computer, you would have control of it yourself. But in the world of cloud computing, you don't have your own server, you don't have the software on a disk. It's all loaded and handled through the cloud, and the cloud is controlled by big tech. And they've shown now time and again, not only in the civilian realm, but in these sort of official government realms, that they're willing to change the way the game is played after people have come to rely on their software.
Yep. And here's a quote you have in your article. This is about the Microsoft people with that Jedi contract. Many Microsoft employees don't believe that what we build should be used for waging war. When we decided to work at Microsoft, we were doing so in the hopes of empowering every person on the planet to achieve more, not with the intent of ending lives and enhancing lethality. Yeah. Okay. We got to run, Eric. What do we do? Because who else can, okay, so I don't like big tech, so I go over to Dave Rubin's social media platform, locals.com, right? That's easy for me to do. If the Pentagon doesn't want to use Amazon for cloud computing, what do they do? What are the other options?
Right. I mean, there's the traditional military contracting world, the Raytheons of the world. And, I think the Pentagon thinks that when it comes to the high-tech stuff that the traditional military companies are not as up to speed on the tech as the Amazons and the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. They want the edge that comes from having the best, highest technology done by the best talent. The only problem is that best talent doesn't necessarily want to work with the Pentagon.
Yeah, so everything's a trade-off, and at least they're reliable. All right, very interesting. Eric Felton, Real Clear Investigations. Check him out there and read this full article here. Eric, thanks for bringing this to our attention.
Mike, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, keep up the wonderful work of reporting. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders. So in the flurry of executive orders and the first 100 days and all that stuff, and tomorrow, by the way, we have a special on the main 3 categories of executive orders that the president has signed, and that's oil, so energy, immigration, and critical race theory. So we're going to do a detailed analysis of all that coming up on tomorrow's special. But one of the things that's been missed, and obviously was talked about in the campaign, is the court. And packing the court and court reform and what that could possibly look like. Ari Hoffman is here. He's one of the associate editors at the Post Millennial. Ari, how are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. So let's talk about this court packing. I've been of the belief that because it's only a 50-50 Senate, and you got Manchin and whatever, that court packing is not going to happen. What do you think? And what other court reforms are being floated out there?
What I worry about is, look what's happening with the executive orders. Everybody thought that Joe Biden was the one giving Barack Obama the experience, but it seems like the methods being employed right now are Barack Obama's. I got a phone and I got a pen, if you remember the quote. And it seems like that's what's happening with executive orders. So they are establishing this commission on reforming the court. Now, the good news is usually in a bureaucracy, when you establish a commission, nothing happens. But the intent really is to figure out a way to justify to the American people that they're going to start packing the court or messing with the court at the federal level with regard to other circuits, other appointments. So what you need to keep your eye on is not so much the Supreme Court, where they may take the heat, but the lower levels of the courts where Trump had so much success appointing judges.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you think is there an appetite in America to change the makeup of the court? Do you think that people would even really want that?
It depends if they're following the 10% of people that are on Twitter or if they're following the American public. Because what these politicians do is a lot of times they think that Twitter's real life. They think that Facebook's real life, social media is real life. It's not. And the question and the thing is that overwhelmingly Americans are against messing with the status quo with the Supreme Court, because they know that in the end it's going to swing back the other way eventually. And what's going to happen? So what? You add 5 or 6 this time, then next time you add 10, then you add 20. You're going to run out of space in that building really quickly. And it's just going to become a political ping pong ball you keep kicking back and forth.
Yeah, and then you need a Supreme Court over the Supreme Court that now has 100 people on it. What do you think about the suggestion out there that we need to have term limits on Supreme Court? So it's either a term limit or you have to retire at the age of 70 or whatever. What do you think of that?
I think that the founders were a lot smarter than the rest of us, and I kind of think there's a reason they left this big hole in the document with regard to these appointments and packing the Supreme Court. I'd like to think there's a reason. It wasn't just that they forgot. With regards to term limits, I love them for senators. I love them for congressmen. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't want them for Supreme Court justices. But my problem is, if you start messing with the status quo now, while everything's so volatile, where does it end? That's my one concern. So I want to say yes to term limits, but at the same time, right now, messing with this kind of stuff, and even if it was a Republican in Congress and things were this volatile, I'd be concerned about messing with the status quo.
Yeah, and this exact same conversation is true for the filibuster. So we can just copy and paste it there. What's of the executive orders, and again, we're doing a special on this tomorrow, but of the executive orders, the 32 or whatever that have been done so far, compared to Trump's 4 in the first week, what's most concerning to you?
definitely the oil industry and the effects this is having on the energy industry. Because they put 60,000 people out of work so far. How many more is coming after that? And John Kerry's comments yesterday, I don't know what John Kerry's still doing around. I thought we were done with John Kerry. But now he comes out and, sorry?
I think that's so amazing. Like Biden's the establishment guy, and he maybe trying not to be the establishment guy, and he hires the ultimate like John. I saw John Kerry up there behind a podium, and I thought I was like hallucinating. Like, what are you talking, John Kerry? So I'm with you on that.
I thought we were done with him. And he flies on his private jet to come tell American oil workers and energy workers that they are going to lose their jobs and start making solar panels. We know that doesn't work out. I mean, what are you going to do? Tell them to code next and then ship their jobs off, overseas? That's exactly what we're heading for. And meanwhile, on the campaign trail, don't forget, Joe Biden said he wasn't going to ban fracking. And we knew it was a lie when he said it. But that's what he said to the energy workers. And my question is, when are the unions going to wake up and realize that every time they support the Democrats, they get kicked in the teeth? When are the union members? Maybe the bosses have the power, so they don't think about it. But when are the union members going to wake up and say, enough, what are we paying for?
It's so bizarre. The oil part is so obvious. It makes no sense with Biden's comments at the end of the campaign about fracking and ban fracking. Like, why were the union members surprised, right? And we've all seen the tweets of the unions saying we support Joe Biden, and then right afterwards saying, hold on, Joe Biden, we didn't really think you were actually going to do these things. Well, seriously, what are they thinking? Trump was like the pro-union, populist, working class guy. How did that not click more?
Well, here's something else we're not thinking about. The Keystone XL Pipeline. The reason it's called XL is because it's for overflow from the original pipeline. Most people don't realize that there already is a pipeline, and it is a safer way to carry the oil. Now, in Washington state, it goes back. There's a train line that goes back and forth between Washington and Canada carrying this oil. Eco-terrorists have been targeting these trains. The FBI has over 40 investigations pending. Some of these people are in jail. Last month, there was a massive train derailment, which spilled oil everywhere, and there were these massive fires because of it. They still don't know what caused it. Some people are theorizing it may have been these eco-terrorists. They haven't released that yet. So tell me, what is a safer way of transporting oil? It's going to be the pipeline, not these trains. So oil isn't going anywhere. But if you say you're against nuclear power, you say you're against coal power, and now they want to get rid of the hydroelectric dams, which are the cleanest form of energy because they say it's affecting the fishies, where do you go from there?
Wow. Ari, I've never heard. So I'm looking at, you guys pronounce it Como? Do you say K-O-M-O or Como?
We say Como, yeah.
Como. So Como News in Seattle. Oil train derailment near site of earlier terrorist attempt. What?
Yeah. Nobody's paying attention to this at all. Nobody's paying attention to this. This was huge local news, and the rest of the country isn't noticing. I mean, Washington State is a hotbed for this. What was it? 15 years ago, I think, some eco-terrorists burned down a building at the University of Washington because they were experimenting on trees and plants. They killed a janitor in the process, and the plants they were experimenting on were going extinct, and they killed off the species. They were trying to clone them. That's what they were doing at this research lab. They were trying to clone them, and in the process, they killed off an entire species.
Listen,
there's another one here.
If
you like that,
you have to make stuff up, Ari. Like I was with you on the first story, but that one seems too impossible. What in the world?
Oh, no,
do you have another one?
Look it up. I got another one for you. There's a thing called the Street of Dreams in Washington. What they do is they build these new houses that have advancements in home technology. And the year that they had picked green technology as their theme, eco-terrorists burned down the Street of Dreams. You just can't make this stuff up.
Why did they burn it down? Here it is. 8 months after arson, Street of Dreams is a ghost town. Why did they burn it down?
Because they just said, no, this isn't green enough for us. At least that was what I remember from the time. This was, we're going back like 10, 15 years.
10 years. Wow, that is psychotic. Okay, well, that actually brings me to Seattle. Let's go here. So what's up with Seattle? Give me a little history on why Seattle is so crazy. I'll give you a little example. So I'm in San Diego. So we have a part of San Diego called OB, Ocean Beach. And it's crazy. It's like super hippie and bizarre and like a weird hipster town, or hippie town. And the theory is that the 8, which is the highway that goes all the way across the bottom of the country, and it literally dumps in OB. So the belief is that just decades and decades of hitchhikers and hippies just going across the country have just unloaded into OB, and it's maintained this bizarre culture. Right. So what is it about Seattle that makes Seattle so weird and violent?
Well, it's a little bit more than that. And for us, it's a lot of people came up from California during the tech boom to work for the tech industry here. And as a result, they brought their liberal values with them. And as such, they began flushing the city and state down the toilet. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. From Washington, Oregon, and California, there is one Republican in statewide elected office in one of those positions. One. So now look at how those states are doing. Now, whether it's all Republican or all Democrat, the reason we have a two-party system is to checks and balances. If we have one-party rule, you're in trouble. And that's exactly what's happening. But more than that, these politicians in Seattle locally are very crafty, and they know where their voting base is. So sometimes they're really good at keeping the crime away from certain areas and dumping it into others. And as such, there are areas you could live in and not know any of the stuff I talk about is happening. And people call me a liar. They say, no, there's no riots. And they're trying to create that narrative that there's no riots because they've never seen them. They don't know where the homeless encampments are. They could live in Seattle, drive and not see them, or just see them on the highway and go, oh, that's so sad. They don't see them in their parks, like where my neighborhood is. They don't see them where my office is, where my family had to move out after 110 years being in that area because things were so bad. They don't see that, or they don't want to see that because they just want to keep voting the way they do. But here's something else, is that the police department recently ran a survey, and it said that 90% of people in Seattle are done with the demonstrations. They've just had it, and they want a new way to go. Only 8% of them voted for Donald Trump.
We got about a minute. Do you have hope? Give me some, because I don't have much for California. So what do you got?
The only way anything changes is if people get involved at the local political level. If they say, oh, somebody else has got it, that's how you get where we're at. Because what happened was self-declared socialists and Marxists moved in and took control of the local parties to give themselves a Democrat endorsement because they know that the people here are going to vote for whoever has a D next to their name. Unless people get involved at the local level, this isn't going to change. And we're just presiding over the corpse of Seattle.
Ari Hoffman, post-millennial. Go check him out there. Ari, appreciate your time. We'll do it again.
No problem. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, brother. Wonderful. Tomorrow, our special, Biden's first 100 days. We'll talk about energy in a little more detail. We'll talk about immigration, DACA, and the rest. And then we'll talk about all of his critical race theory stuff. It's all coming up tomorrow. Spread the word.